call this work session of the Anchorage Assembly to order. We're here to get a project status report on these synergy projects. Let's start by taking roll. Ms. Johnson, will you start us?
Jennifer Johnston.
Bill Evans.
Bernie Hall. Tim Steele.
Dick Rennie.
Patrick Flynn.
Amy Domboski.
I believe Ms. Gray Jackson is in the...
She's somewhere in the building. You should just walk in.
Henry, Ms. Pelham.
Lance Abram, IT.
Little Pete.
And Mr. Peterson has joined us. Mr. Ahern, are you guiding us today?
Actually, Ann Reed is going to give the presentation.
Very good. Ms. Reed?
Okay, so this is the monthly update on the SAP Synergy project. We're going to go over the update, our quality assessments. There are 2 quality assessments that are in process, the staffing and the project financials. So our recent accomplishments, we have 2 pieces to this project. One piece is the financial procurement activity. We refer to it as FILO, F-I-L-O. And then there's the HCM, human capital management piece, which is the next slide, which is the ER, the employee relations part. So we are very, very slowly making progress on our data conversion, and that is moving all the information from PeopleSoft over into SAP properly, into the correct buckets using the very, very different chart of accounts. We were at 66% last month. We are at 70% this month. We are struggling right now with decisions on life-to-date project history. And by that I mean bringing everything over, all the detail over from PeopleSoft on open projects into SAP. This is very, very, very involved because it requires creating more charts of accounts, more accounts, because you're dealing with stuff that could be up to 10 years old and trying to move it across.
Ms. Johnson.
Is that something that we can just take a slice, you know, a historical slice and go from there and just put the rest on? I mean, it seems to me that we could be spending a lot of time transferring accounts that don't need to be, we need access to them somehow, but it doesn't need to be transferred as much.
Through the chair. That's being looked at because there are ways of doing what is called a data warehouse where you can move that data in there and then marry it to the SAP stuff, which would make it a little bit less complicated to do this conversion. And those 2 are being looked at currently as part of this life-to-date history. Oh, yes, and yes, it would be.
It just makes more sense to me than to do this.
That is generally how most large conversions are completed.
Right, right. I'd hate to get caught up in a money.
Through the chair, I would add that that's included in the SAP QA when that quality assessment happens. It's going to be one of the first items that we ask them to look at.
So we're also tied to that is the grant fund budget load. We are creating a couple of new programs in order to automate this load, which will make it quicker. However, it is tied to how you're going to do the life-to-date project history. If you're doing life-to-date project history, the budget load is very simple. The grant load is very difficult. If you do the slice in time, the grant load is very simple and the budget load is very difficult. So either way, we're dealing with that and we're trying to get that one resolved, which is why the very small percentage of increase over the last month. We are still in full volume FERC testing. That's not being held up by anything other than we had a resource issue, and we thank the Assembly for resolving that resource issue on October 21st. So this is now moving forward again on building the environment. So all the prep work is happening. There's 100 prep steps to this before we can actually get the full volume FERC testing done in order to prepare the environment properly, to have the full range of chart of accounts of transactions in there in order to get what they want with that FERC testing completed, which was why when we did month-end, year-end, that full volume was not completed because we knew it was going to take a considerable amount of time. But it needs to be done. We need to make sure that our FERC reporting is totally accurate for the whole entire municipality. Organizational change management is in progress. We just completed our first wave of super user training, and we had a nice coordination meeting yesterday. It was a citywide meeting. There were over almost 100 people there. I did a head count. It was Gail's meeting yesterday. And we got a lot of really good feedback. We are going to start into another wave of super user training. The intent here is to make sure that everybody feels comfortable enough with the software that this is a non-event when we go live. So we're continuing with that.
Mr. Peterson?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Maybe I missed this earlier, but what is super user? Who's a super user?
The super users were chosen in each of their departments by the senior leadership group that we have, which is departmental representation throughout the municipality. And the super users are normal people that have a proclivity towards IT, so to speak, who are going to be helping inside their departments once we go live. So they'll be the first level of response. So if somebody has a problem doing a transaction code, they can go to their super user who's got a lot more training, who should be able to answer the question relevant to their department, thereby getting them a more complete answer before they have to go to the IT desk for help.
Mr. Thompson, do you want to follow up on that?
I just was, for both these, that and the business readiness, are there small snapshots that the assembly could go through? Just a quick one of our work sessions where we could see what you're presenting to the employees so we have a picture?
Do you want to see the SAP system itself, or you
Yeah,
want to see?
yeah.
We have what are called U forms, which are they capture how the transaction works. So we can, that's out on our website, so we can send you those links and you can look at the U forms. And they'll show you screenshots and the step-by-step how to do something.
Great, and I'd say the same with reporting.
And through the chair, if you'd like us to schedule some time to do that, we can make that happen.
And Gloria, would you kindly introduce yourself
Gail.
for the record? So,
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Gail Turner.
sorry, Gail. Okay. Ms. Reed, please.
Okay, and the Project Track tool, which you also just approved the funding for, that kickoff is scheduled for November 17th. We are planning on that tool being available to us by January 1st. And it is truly the missing link in this project. It is going to tie resourcing and tasking back to the project plan, but it will definitively show where the tasks are getting completed and where they're not getting completed. So it's a very good tool to have. This is the second part of this very large project, which is the ER payroll activities. We are still in cycle 1. We have what we are now calling the Fab 5. We have been stuck on these Fab 5 since May. We are back to design. Of those Fab 5, we are finalizing unit testing on dynamic actions. There were 14 actions total. There's only 2 left, and that's only in testing. So it's been configured, and it's been tested by the configurators. So now we're testing with Martha inside the employee relations. Min-max leave accrual, we are finalizing the unit testing there. We anticipate having that completed end of day today, worst case next week, 95% complete. Kelly shift is particularly for the fire department, and there's some uniqueness to how Kelly shifts are done. So this had to go back to design, it was reconfigured, and we are finalizing unit testing there. I believe there were 60 scenarios, all different, that we had in our testing plan, and we're 90% complete on the testing of all those scenarios. Top down, bottom up, this is a change request because it changed how, and this is how they do leave accrual, and I don't ask me to explain the top down, bottom up piece, but it means something inside payroll, and we're waiting for confirmation of details and signature, and these are tied back to those collective bargaining agreements. Some of them are top down, some of them are bottom up. And we want to make sure that we are exactly correct on those bargaining agreements before we do the configuration on this. Callback guarantee is also is tied back to the collective bargaining agreements. There we do know exactly which ones are doing what, and we're 50% configured and we're testing on that. We do have change requests that have been escalated to finalize the requirements for outstanding CBAs. I'm sure you're aware that IBEW had pieces that didn't get completed until later after the first IBEW CBA was approved by the Assembly. Those pieces we're still waiting for confirmation that we do have them written correctly for our requirements document and that we're going to configure them correctly. So that's where those are sitting. The quality assessments, as you're aware, there are 2. We have the SAP quality assessment. That scope of work has been finalized. It has been totally approved both by SAP and by the municipality of Anchorage. And then we have the Assembly Independent Project Management Audit, which the RFP has been released. And I know they had a pre-bidders conference, and I know that I've been answering detailed questions from the bidders. Are there any questions on either of the quality assessments? Okay. Staffing. In August, I had mentioned that we needed 5 additional staffing in order to support a split go-live. 3 were in ER and 2 were in payroll. I believe one of those positions has been filled. The others, I believe, have been posted, but we have not filled them yet. There has been a backfill analysis that has started in order to backfill for project resource. We actually do need this resource on a 100% basis in order to make some good time within the project, and so that backfill analysis has started. There was a project management staffing plan that Kate had presented to you in September, and there was an org chart that's been modified slightly. The numbers have not changed, but some of the names inside have. We do have 5 of those people on board. That is definitely making a difference inside this project. I don't know if you realize there are 110 people working on this project between the integrators and the municipal staff, and managing 110 people does take a certain layer of management in between. So we're now putting that level of management in, and we have 5 on board, and I believe we have 3 or 4 more to acquire. We do have staff turnover. I'm sure you're aware that there were 3 that just had announced 2 are being promoted outside of payroll. 1 has resigned. So that is going to make a significant dent. Payroll is one of the areas, employee relations is the other, where we rely very, very heavily upon municipal intelligence and information in order to make this project move forward. This is not something that you can hire a consultant off the street that's going to know how the municipality actually manages their time, their payroll with the collective bargaining agreements, and it has some history there. So that is a concern to the project at this point. And then the last one is the prioritization of the project over regular work. Regular work needs to get done, but that comes back to a staffing and the backfill. And I just wanted to make sure that you understood that right now the project is at the bottom of the priority list, and so if regular work needs to get done, those people do get pulled. Currently, sort of by what we've been watching from our daily meetings with the financial group, we are getting about 50% participation inside the project, and the rest of it is going to the regular jobs. So for the project to make good success, we need to have the dedicated resources. We need to get this done quickly. We'll be back into another round of CBA changes, which means then we have to wait for PeopleSoft to have the change made, us to have the change made in order to make sure we have a good parallel payroll test. So it behooves us from a financial standpoint and from a staffing standpoint to bite the bullet and just finish. So those of us on the project have decided that's our new mantra, just finish.
We have a couple of questions before we move on.
Certainly.
Ms. Gray Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to go back to quality assessments and just let everybody know in terms of the Assembly's independent management review that, as mentioned, the RFPs are out and they have to be back to purchasing by November 21st. And we already have a RFP review team put together. If anybody wants to know who they are, I'll be happy to tell you. And we're going to move pretty quickly on this project. And I just want to let everybody know. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Ms. Gray Jackson. Mr. Trainee, you have a question?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. SAP is going to come and do an analysis implementation. That's going to delay you guys. So for our next meeting, I want to know how much them coming in and doing what they're going to do is going to delay this program from going forward, because we're paying $500,000 a month to Black and Beach, I think. Peloton. And Black and Beach, sorry about that. Peloton, I just want to know, okay, is that going to increase the cost by another $1 million or $500,000? What's the time delay going to be? Second point is, Kate told us in September we needed about 20 more employees to make this thing work. So if you've got 5 already, do you still need another 15, and where do you want those people spread, and what's the cost? Or is it no longer 20 people?
Okay, so the 5, we have 1 of the 5, so we still need the 4. I believe those jobs have been posted. The backfill analysis has started, so that's going to tell us where we need them. And the person that's doing that analysis is interviewing all of the department heads that are directly affected, budget, finance, ER, to make sure that we know what the need is inside the department, because that's what we're gonna have to backfill, correct? So that should be forthcoming.
Just let us know as soon as you get that, because that way we'll know what the cost factor is on it. Thank you, guys. Mr. Steele?
Yes. I would just maybe jump in for just a second through the chair. Part of the scope of work of the SAP QA is to produce that detailed project plan and schedule. And so that is going to help us to define the staffing level required to both complete the project and support the business. So we may be able to give you some information next month, but really the detailed answer is going to come out of the QA assessments as one of the products.
Thank you, Lance.
Sorry.
On that particular point, I'm concerned that we're losing time when we do that, and that means increased cost of consultants, if nothing else. And so that worries me a little bit. The fact that we're having the staff turnover and are not getting folks that enough folks with the particular skills and knowledge of how we do things to help with data transfer and stuff. And that's a big issue. Have we looked outside of people who are retired or transferred, but it seems to me there are particular skills, and that's another bottleneck. And again, bottlenecks cost us money and time. And I don't know how the calendar year end is going to impact you in terms of data and transfer and all that stuff. But I'm still concerned about staff.
Through the chair, if I could address, on the payroll side, there are still staff inside the muni that can help and assist. We have some of them 50% on the project. The recommendation would be that when we're going to be working with their departmental heads, to go to 100% with some of them, because they have all the knowledge base that we need. However, backfilling and staffing up for normal business is going to consume people, much less doing backfill also. So we have plans in place in order to make sure that the project is covered. The other piece is that the CAFR is coming up, and the single audit, which consumes a lot of financial resource in the first 4 or 5 months of the year. And that's being discussed to outsource parts and pieces to people who have retired, people that have background. In order to do that, that would leave them the staffing that would normally do that job still on the project. It's been the past experience that the project staffing has gone back and finished CAFR, and rightly so, it has to be done. It's required by charter, I believe. So we're trying to mitigate those resource losses also this year by doing other ability things to make sure that they're properly covered. So we have things in place in order to hopefully minimize the staffing reduction, but we're going to need backfill in order to complete.
Sure. Overtime, is that an issue? I don't want to burn people out, but if people have particular skills and they have to do their regular work as well, is overtime an issue or an opportunity?
Through the chair, we have, overtime has been used extensively in order to cover both the project and the regular work. Inside the project, we have stopped all overtime as of, I believe it was beginning of October, end of September, beginning of October. So that, because we were very concerned about burnout, and so we were no longer doing that. It actually was back in September. That is a concern. That's also another reason to backfill, so that we aren't double using people on 2 full-time jobs and having them work all the weekends. It's hard.
Ms. Ray Jackson and Ms. Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I see the job announcements, so you guys are moving forward with trying to recruit positions, number one. I'm glad to see that you're thinking ahead in terms of audit and staffing requirements, because you're right, and it is required by charter to be done 90 days after, whatever. But anyway, and also keep in mind, folks, that in the 2015 budget, there are like 6 positions that I'm sure are going to be dedicated to SAP, a few in finance, and then some in ER. So they're going to have those positions already as of January 1st to go forward with hiring. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Ms. Ray Jackson. Mr. Johnston?
I'm not sure if you can answer this, but I'd like to have an answer as far as the drop dead date that for Philo to go live so that it wouldn't have an impact on CAFR and wouldn't have a full impact on next year's budget. As we've had many conversations, if we don't go live soon, then we won't be going live until October. So I'd like to have an idea of what our drop dead date is.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson. Is there any hope to get that done by 1 January?
Go live with Philo? No, sorry. We wish we could tell you yes.
Actually, with what the drop dead date is, I'd also like to know the percentage, because I think as an administration and assembly, we need to decide percentage of accuracy and, what is our risk by going live, because I'm sure all of us realize no matter when we go live, this is not going to be 100% accurate, 100% deal, that we are, there's always going to be cleanup from it. And so I think we need to be able to weigh what the risk is with going live with Philo so it matches next year.
All right, I think we actually made it through the slide finally, so please proceed.
Okay, project financials, this does not quite match your printed slide, and I will tell you the line that I got changed. Professional services is 23 million. That reflects the 3 million that you approved at the last assembly meeting, or the one before that. Your external cost, this slide shows correctly 25 million because that 3 million got added in. On your printed copy, it does not. But the 34 million at the bottom does accurately reflect, and that is the same amount that you have on your printed slide. I just wanted to point that out. When we added in the 3 million, truly it was my fault. I missed the external cost, that it was subtotaled there, and added it in professional services and everything. So we're still under budget. We are expecting the SAP quality assessment to provide us a lot more guidance on how much resource, what time limit, how much we need to complete. There will be risk mitigation brought into that because Assembly Person Johnston is correct. When you cut over go live with a large project like this, you never do it at 100% because nobody has that much time or money. And you always do it with mitigating out the risk, which will be presented to this group so that you understand what the choices are and what we're recommending and why we're recommending those choices. So this is the financials. If there's any questions regarding those.
Just a comment under budget's a relative term. When the budget keeps moving,
I knew something.
I can give you any date time you want. We're way over budget.
Okay. Yes, budget is a relative term. Thank you.
Currently approved. Are there any
Currently
further,
approved.
Are there further questions for Ms. Reed or Mr. Reed? Don't see any. Anything else you wish to add today?
We covered everything. If you have no questions, I must have done a very
I would be delighted to give everybody 35 minutes of their life back.